when you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Margaret from Nairobi, and I'm here in Kisumu today. And I'm excited because of what I've been able to see happening in Kisumu. There has been a lot of impact in many places because of Re-Forma in Kenya. But I'm really particularly excited because of Kisumu's response and also the Western Kenya response to Re-Forma's outcomes. And it's an answered prayer because quite a few people have been thinking, oh, what do we do with this issue of syncretism and lack of training for the pastors? And most of the times it's been because of the issues that have been occurring in this particular region, but also in the better part of Kenya. And one of it being the syncretism, as we've already mentioned, that affects the way people view the prophetic ministry, especially. And part of the prophetic ministry that has been affected also is because it comes with finances and the prosperity gospel, so that you find people want to be in ministry because of finances that come together with that. And due to that, we've seen issues like what has happened, the unfortunate happenings in Shakahola, people going for a man of God so that they can get a prophetic word and that their lives can be better. But out of that, people are having to give out some money. And that issue is not only from Western, but we know that the prophetic ministry has been abused, mostly in Kenya, but also mostly here, because people believe in the dreams, they believe in the visitation by the ancestors. And we thank God that through the word of God, today we were able to hear from one of them that they are able to have a better understanding of prophetic ministry. The other thing that pleases me is the inclusion of every person, because Re-Forma comes as a standard for all the non-formal and informal. And there are some people who are left out by the major churches or major religions in Kenya particularly, just because they were not fitting in that their way of worship, the way they do their things is a bit different. They are a bit zealous, while maybe we may not be zealous, mostly in beating the drums and the way we express ourselves. But because of having these particular outcomes from Re-Forma, they feel, oh, this is actually what God would want us to do as his children. And they feel because of that, they are recognized as competent ministers. And it has been really a beautiful moment to witness a lot of these people witnessing a lot of men and women coming together to worship God in a very beautiful way, in an African way, but also feeling that they are part of the family of God, no matter how they do it, no matter the way they express their worship. They felt they are welcomed in the church of God, and they felt that Re-Forma was actually telling them, come and become part of the church. And I'm really excited for Kisumu. And also now that Kenya has been on the news for a few bad things, especially by the church. Some mistakes have been done, and they've been grievous mistakes. And we are particularly happy that Re-Forma came to Kenya at a time where the government required the church to have training, and they felt that this was something that they could hold on to. Well, it's not yet been recognized by the government, but the fact that it was something that was solid, the teachings are very solid, the way the material has been organized is simple, is for every person. For example, we've had doctoral students coming to our program and they've graduated with the Re-Forma certificate. We've also had very other people who've never been to school, and they've come and they are able to understand the outcomes. So we see it as an equalizer, and it has been received by people from all walks of life. And it's really a moment whereby the church really needed a paper. And we are still worried about this paper. Is it going to be accepted? But good news from Rwanda is that Rwandese can now open their churches There were over 8,000 that had been closed down because of lack of the training. And we know because of that, Kenya is going to follow suit, because we were following Rwandese in our way of action, especially for those who have not had the formal training or those who had not had any training, because of the havoc, of course, that was being caused by these pastors in Kenya. And one thing I could continuously pray and ask the Lord is that the church will unite. There are more leaders are going to say, yes, we actually endorse this as a national way of a standard for formal, non-formal, and informal training. It's because with the formal, you are able to get the knowledge, the head knowledge. But with Re-Forma, you are able to get the how to apply. And therefore, we need this whether you are in the formal setup, the non-formal setup, and in the informal setup. And it's also been a moment in Kenya that we are witnessing some of the people in the formal settings looking for Re-Forma. And we are having MOUs, we are having memorandums of understandings, and they want us to work together and collaborate. It's been a moment, and we believe that there will be more people coming, and I'm calling more and more on board. But please know the work that you're doing when you fund this ministry. It's very important, because we are being able to reach out the hub of Africa, especially when it comes to many things. People come to Kenya to test whether machines are going to work, to test whether Chinese products are going to work, to test many other things. And when a program like this comes to Kenya and it's accepted, it means that many other people in Africa are going to accept it. And therefore, the work you're doing is immense, and we really thank God for you. Thank you so much also to Dr. Cole for thinking about this particular way of checking the quality of training that is out there, because earlier on there was no standard. Everyone did whatever they wanted, and then the blame came to the wholesome church. So therefore, there is no one who can say, I didn't do it, because anyway, everyone is pointing their hands and fingers to the church, and maybe you never did anything. So therefore, thank you so much, Dr. Cole. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruben. Thank you so much, Paul, and the rest of the Re-Forma team. We are really grateful that you could consider Kenya, and we are happy that you've given us a priority. Thank you. The Lord bless you. And we've also seen something with the trainers that we've had. Because when we first came to Kenya as Re-Forma, there were people who were doing groups, but we never got someone to help us to see actually how do you actualize the outcomes and how do you teach the outcomes. So we used the trainer of trainer model, whereby I picked a few people that I knew were going to be impactful in the society. And part of those people have been able to train other people. And for example, right now in Kisumu, where I am, we are with someone who is from the 3rd generation. And from them, they are able to do, I think we are on the 9th generation in the 2 years. And why is that possible? It's because while he was in my class, he was facilitating another class. And while those ones were in the class, they were facilitating another class. And that's how we are able to achieve multiplication within a very short period of time. And therefore, for other people in other areas, I would encourage you to focus on a few, train them on how to use the outcomes, and then ask them and require them to have to train another extra one person. And it's going to work just very fine. So thank you very much, and God bless you.
Would you like to say something about languages, that we've got Swahili, the notes in Swahili now, and that they can train, prepare in one language and then train into a local language?
Sure. Also, one thing that we are appreciating Re-Forma about is that we are able to get the notes in the English language, but also one major language translated, especially for Kenya, is Swahili. And we have the outcomes now in Swahili. I believe we'll be launching them very soon, but they are out and they have been accepted by the Tanzanians. You very well know, or maybe you might not know, you think that Swahili is a common language. It's not the Queen's language in East Africa. It is the language of the Swahili people, and Tanzanians are the Swahili people. Kenyans are actually cousins, not even sisters or brothers. We are cousins. And then we moved to Uganda, and they're actually cousins of the cousins. So the Swahili goes and dies and completely dies in Congo. They say that. And when we have the first outcomes that we had, they were translated in Swahili using a Google translator. And then a few people were able to check. But we saw there were some few mistakes, but we've been able to get another better version from a Swahili speaker. And from that Swahili version, people from Rwanda, from wherever else, they are able to see this is good, and they can translate that into their local dialect. And also we can use English to translate into the local dialect. But we are glad that there is Swahili, which is closer to our local dialect. And therefore we are glad. And that means that any person who receives the English and the Swahili, or the Swahili version, they are able to teach the outcomes in their local dialects to their local people. And because we believe one can save many, we may not be able to translate the outcomes in all the languages available, especially in our country or other countries. But we have Swahili and maybe French, we have other languages that we can translate from there to another understandable language. So that is a good thing about Re-Forma's outcomes. Sure.